Dakota, and lucky to have Dr. Johnson here today. Very active throughout the state and across the country in helping support our rural education. So probably don't need an introduction, Dr. Johnson, but let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, Dr.
How many newbies? Okay. I was here for 28 years. It's not a bad place to work. Of course, now I do my professional development at the elevator. It's sometimes known as the College of Knowledge. I can go down there and get more information in 15 minutes than I could in the teacher's lounge for an hour. So anyway, we'll get going on this. I told Justin that I would take a half hour up of his time. I don't know if I've even got that much, but we'll give it a whale. This will also be recorded. I put it on my YouTube channel, so if you're at all interested, you can watch it later. I'll send it out to Justin when we're all done. Empowering teachers and students with place-based learning grants. This is something that has been interesting to me for a long, long time, because whenever we meet somebody new, the first thing we always say is, where are you from? Where are you from? We very rarely get to know somebody until we know where are they from. Were you born and raised in Sisseton? Were you born and raised in Sheldon? Or Lear? Or Gwinner? Or Lisbon? I mean, it's just a part of our nature. So today I'm going to talk about 3 opportunities that you have to empower your students and you as a faculty member with what we call place-based learning grants. I'll talk a little bit about the one here in Lisbon. I'll talk about the Godsil grant, which is offered to a hub member, which is North Dakota Small Organized Schools. They have that grant available, and that's offered in the fall. Then there's the National Signature Project, which is sponsored by the National Rural Education Association and the Rural Schools Collaborative. Community-based giving is pretty darn important, especially in our rural communities. I sat and still sit for the last 30 years on the community endowment here in Lisbon. That community endowment has grown since I've been here in almost 30 years now, from just barely $100,000 to over $6 million. That community endowment is in essence, that endowment is a basis, and the only thing that we can ever spend is the interest that's raised on that group. And it's growing. So it's over 6 million today. We are currently now granting out over $230,000 a year through the Lisbon Community Endowment to all kinds of projects. But as I saw that, I also saw that there was a number of things that, especially here at Lisbon Public Schools, it started to lose, because when we started getting that big money and the big grants, we also lost the little things like uniforms for junior high kids. So I saw a real need to start a endowment here at the Lisbon Public Schools. And the Lisbon Public Schools does have an endowment, a foundation, and it has grown considerably. Since it initiated, I believe, in about 2018, it has grown now to over $150,000 in its base amount. So these are local assets that are used to do local things. So everything from the food pantry to junior high boys basketball uniforms to the abuse network. Those are all local things that we have to do. There is a vision and a commitment that we have. It's a community foundation. We have a school foundation, and it's all to help our rural communities grow and prosper and do the right thing. Now, when you talk about place-based projects or those kinds of things. This is my granddaughter. They now live in Denver. And this is a project she did in school. So when you talk about place-based projects, you are not too far off of what most of us do. Right now, as good teachers, we have projects that kids do. This is a project about the environment that she's done. And as you can see, she has the mountains in the background. She's in 4th grade. She has all the little rivers and the animals and all of those. So it was an environmental project that she did. And she used some of her art abilities and skills to make that project. So when we talk about place-based, we're not too far away from what we commonly call now as project-based learning. In the Lisbon community, we support our kids in our Lisbon Public School Endowment Fund. We support our kids, we support our school, and these are tax deductible. Now, there's 2 things I love to do in especially this time of the year. I don't like paying taxes any more than the other guy. So I try to find ways to not pay taxes. And one of the ways to reduce my taxes is sometimes you give it away. So my wife and I, over the last 5 years, have given, since it started, my wife and I have put nearly $25,000 in the Lisbon Public School Endowment Fund. Why? I haven't paid any state income tax in the last 5 years. So it's kind of an advantage. Now, I can't say that about church. I give to my church because I give to my church. But Lisbon Public Schools, one of the reasons I give there is because it's a heck of a tax deduction. Place-based education encourages teachers and students to use the schoolyard, the community, the public lands, and other special places as resources, turning the communities into the classroom. And that's where I always say that we all have a very strong sense of place. Where are you from? And so students need to learn about their heritage, their culture, their systems. You know, they're all there, the landscape, the opportunities. You could do these all from language arts to mathematics to social studies and align them with the curriculum that you're in. We have found that place-based education or project-based has been something that good teachers have been doing forever, but now we're trying to make it more intentional. All students will learn, experience success, and be good citizens. I believe that's the mission of the Lisbon Public Schools. So, exposure to strong-based education outperforms their peers. Research shows it. Students become more engaged and enthusiastic when they're learning about their own place, something that they're familiar with. Invite students to become active citizens. Energizes teaching, transforms school culture, connects schools in the community. Encourage students to become environmentally stewards. Teaching models, local cultural studies, nature studies, community issues, investigation, local internships, opportunities, induction in the community decision-making. So there's a lot of opportunities there in place-based. In the Lisbon Public Schools, the grant opportunity is out there right now. Application is there and available. It's very, very simple to fill out. It's in a Word document, so you can just cut and paste and put it in there. It requires your name, your email address, and name of project. You do a brief description of your objectives, goals, and the steps. Do the narrative, and then a small budget of how you'd spend $1,000. Project must utilize place-based principles, addressing the community issue, engage students, and make our community a better place. Project must support an academic rigor, promoting deep thinking in a content area. So I'll give you a couple of examples here. It started here with a grant from my wife and I. And we continue to give to that particular one with inside the Lisbon Public School Endowment. And let me see if I can hit, I've got one of these mice that, here's one of the first ones here. Richard Schmidt, are you in here? Richard, you won a state award for this. These are the kids here. They're doing Bronco News. And the equipment for the $1,000 that Richard wrote for was a green screen, some other things. But just think about that project that ran for a couple of years. COVID kind of put an end to it all, but it was going really great at the time, where they would sit and write. Now, at that time, Maddie was writing for the Ransom County Gazette. The kids would start doing their editing and all of those kinds of things. And then they would put out Bronco News on every Friday. What a great way to get kids involved. They won a state award from the governor for that particular issue on technology. So all those little third graders got to go out to Bismarck. They had a blast and they presented to the governor. It was a great time, and they were awarded. As you can see, they all have their little press passes. How old is Micah now? What? 7th grade? Cool. Ava was in there too, wasn't she? Here's another one. This one was, I know Emma is no longer with us, but this was Parkside Buddies. And they also won a statewide award for volunteering in a long-term care unit. So what the principle behind this is, they would go over and they were with friends, older elderly people with inside Parkside home, and those kids would write and interview them, and they then presented them. They actually published a story about how life was when they were growing up. They published the story, and then they gave them that story for a Christmas present.
What was the funding used for that one?
What's that?
Like, what did you use the funding for?
There was the publishing, there was some transportation on that. Publishing was probably most of it, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So the second one that I was going to talk about is a Rural School Collaborative Grant. It's a Place Fellow program. This one is $2,000 for the project and a $500 honorarium. This is an annual award. It comes out in the fall, and it's awarded. I think the due date last year was October 14th. And this is because of our membership. Lisbon is a member of the North Dakota Small Organized Schools, and this is through our membership. And this one is very similar because I copied it. This year's winner in 2023 is Elizabeth Kruger from Fort Ransom. And she's doing a school-wide project. Students are going to identify areas of interest with inside historical sites in Fort Ransom. As you know, they have the state park there. They have a history of a fort. They have a number of things. They're going to do pictures, interviews, records, all of those kinds of things. And then they're going to use a software, and I'm not real familiar with it, but I've seen it used before, called Story Map, and that will create QR codes. So, I mean, if you don't know anything about QR, you better learn. I'm 67. I just opened a box of a television, and that's the first thing you do is take a picture of the QR code to tell you how to set it up. So they're going to put that in there, and they're going to install it on the state parks on different markers. And she was the winner of that. Some previous winners, Sarah Fornes from Central Cass won it one year. Her high school science students actually did the oxygen level in a little pond that they have outside of Castleton with North Dakota Game and Fish. And they did the oxygen levels and tried to find ways to improve the oxygen so there wasn't so much winter kill. And that was a project done by the high school science class. Another one I know was an English teacher in Belfield. She did a project where they improved the city park of Belfield. In fact, I wrote her a nice little note because when I was young and dumb and working in the oil field to pay for my teaching habit, I slept in the park for a week before I found someplace to live during the oil boom of 1978. So that one was kind of an interesting one. And then part of that is the teacher themselves gets that $500, but part of that is you got to do a presentation. The last one is the National Signature Project, and this one is co-sponsored by the National Rural Education Association and Rural School Collaborative. Last year, they had so many great applicants that they actually handed out 3 of them. So that's a $2,500 grant. The money is growing with inside the foundation, so they were able to do that without an issue. And that's outstanding innovation in classroom projects, national signature projects. Awardees are compensated for travel registration and they get to go to the actual national forum. So I presented at the national forum last fall in Green Bay, Wisconsin in October. So that was at that one, the application will be due in May. So, as all good people do. Is there any questions on any of that? Anybody have any, want to know anything about retirement? Give you a lot of advice, but anyway, I think it's really fun. There's none of these that are very difficult. With a little bit of planning, a little discussion, any one of you in here could write this up. It's like a dissertation. There'll never be the perfect one, but there's no such, the only perfect one is the one that gets done, all right? So make sure that you get it in time. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Justin of who the winner is going to be in 23-24 here in Lisbon. I saddened me last year because we didn't have one applicant. Not one applicant from Lisbon Public Schools filled out the application. So I encourage you to do so. With that, my day is done. I'm going to go to the